This nerd's gonna be on banner soon, so I thought today, why don't I cover with y'all Neuvillette's main pros and cons to help y'all decide whether or not he's worth pulling for on your account specifically. My name is Juice, and that was a fresh squeeze. Let's get into it. Neuvillette's going to be Hydro, so of course that means he's going to fit in a lot of teams just based on element alone. I'd argue that Hydro is currently the best element in the game just due to the sheer amount of applications it has. He's also a DPS, so you can assume that he's gonna bring some insane personal DPS to all the teams you draw him into. He's a relatively simple unit to play as well, seeming to just be a CA spam unit, meaning he won't be too difficult to weave with anyone in particular. Being Hydro also means he'll certainly be good in the future as well, since pretty much every meta reaction right now requires Hydro to take off. Speaking of the future, Neuvillette is a HP scaling unit. As of now, we don't have any HP buffing units, we've only got Hydro Resonance to back us up, which you probably won't even take advantage of with Neuvillette since his Hydro application looks to be pretty solid. So when a dedicated HP buffer comes out, it'll improve Neuvillette's DPS by quite a pretty amount. Plus, as of now, Neuvillette doesn't have a best team in particular. You just want to slot him anywhere Hydro DPS is welcome, such as Taser teams or Hyperbloom teams, whatever you can think of. His best team when he releases will most likely be him with Fischl for energy particle generation and extra sub DPS, with Beidou for a similar purpose but for AoE instead, Kazjire as he'll be the only animo which provides meaningful buffs to Neuvillette with that damage amping passive of his, or you can use Best Girl Venti instead for grouping, and some sort of shielder to prevent him from getting interrupted. Most likely Zhongli, since he has the thickest shield. This team is pretty much just put together from the lack of teammates that Neuvillette actually has, so we can expect that when the Hydro Archon releases, Neuvillette will finally have a proper best-in-slot team. And mind you, the teams he's capable of playing in don't seem weak at all. Think of how Sino and Nilou came out before Nahida did, and when she came out, both of them finally got definitive best-in-slot teams. You can consider Neuvillette to be of the same vein as Ayato. Anywhere where Ayato works, Neuvillette will most likely function too. In my opinion, I think that Neuvillette's going to be much stronger than Ayato. His kit looks far more dynamic and powerful, and has a lot more potential to me. His animations and gameplay also look 10 times more interesting than Ayato, and Ayato's pretty ugly too, so that's something else worth mentioning. Speaking of his gameplay, he doesn't really look to have a barrier to entry in terms of skill level. You can just utilize him easily while still yielding impressive results. And for those of you wondering, yes, you can play Neuvillette National, but no, it's not going to be better than Childe Internet. I personally wouldn't compare an enabler, being Mr. Sexy Gingy, to a Hydro DPS like Neuvillette. They're innately different, and it makes sense that Childe Internet is better since he's pretty much locked to that one team exclusively, whereas Neuvillette can play almost anywhere you want him to. Some units are very powerful, but are a bit too specialized for what they do to be truly good everywhere. For example, Yoimiya is a good single target unit, but she's just that, a good single target unit. Good luck using her when there's more than 2 enemies on field even if you're of decent investment. But Neuvillette's not like this. He's gonna be good in both AoE and single target. For single target scenarios, you can adapt his hypercarry team by using Fischl over Beidou. He's going to be strong regardless of where you put him. Hydro as an element itself can't really be countered in the Abyss since it enables far too many reactions. His abilities don't seem to be strictly tied to either or, and his damage isn't going to fall off drastically in either scenario. Some units fall off really hard when they're put in a situation they are not used to, but I think Neuvillette will adapt well. For example, Ayaka and Ganyu were excellent picks for quite a long time, but then they fell off pretty badly when the freeze counter Abysses rolled in. It was the end of an era. But Neuvillette can adapt much better than units like these. Just by nature, he's very difficult to counter. We've seen how well Hydro units have aged, and Neuvillette will be no different. We can expect him to have a very healthy, long shelf life. Even lower-end Hydro units like Ayato are still at least competent in the current meta. By the way, if you're enjoying the content, why not consider liking and subscribing, maybe even leaving a cool comment down below. If you do, then you'll get a free pass to commit crimes past 6 PM. Now that's an offer you just can't pass up, is it? Moving on. Unfortunately, Neuvillette is not going to be an overly free-to-play friendly unit. It's to be expected as a hypercarry. Neuvillette wants to have a fair share of investment put into him, and how much you have to put in can depend on a couple of things. First off, this guy just doesn't have any solid free-to-play friendly options. Yeah, Genshin in general has always suffered from mid-catalyst syndrome, but Neuvillette in particular is pretty egregious with this. The poor dude isn't that good on craftables or cheap budget options. That doesn't mean he's unusable, but he's definitely going to feel significantly weaker. For reference, there isn't really an equivalent to a Yoimiya Rust, Dragon's Bane Hu Tao, or Catch Raiden for him. If you get him, you're gonna want to invest in a high-end weapon for him. He's not the first unit like this. Xiao is like this too. All his free-to-play friendly options kind of suck. I had him on an R5 deathmatch for the longest time. Yes, R5. And the jump from R5 deathmatch to Homa felt huge. Now, imagine how big that jump is for people who are going from a Blackcliff pole to a Homa. It's a similar concept. Don't pull without a plan of what you're actually going to give him, so you aren't stuck sticking him on something like Prototype Amber. Ugh. Secondly, interruption resistance. You always want to be firing off charge attacks of Neuvillette and building up stacks of his A1 to continuously power them up, but he's very susceptible to getting knocked over. So either you pull for his C1 to increase his interruption to resistance, or you pull for Zhongli, a whole other limited 5-star for the sake of his survivability. Sure, you could argue most people have Zhongli already, but he's kind of a luxury pull, meaning that either way you have to pay the cost of another 5-star to solve this issue for him. There's not really a free-to-play friendly workaround for this, as no other shielder will provide the same level of tankiness that Zhongli does. This is a really important thing, since most of his meaningful damage is locked behind his A1, and he falls off hard without utilizing it, or you have to tailor a comp around him to make sure you can gain all 3 stacks of his A1, regardless of what sacrifices you have to make. This is important for playing him in his most efficient way. You also pretty much have to play him with the 5-star Animo unit, as all the 4-star Animo units aren't that good for him. Kazu has his best damage amplifier and buffer, and no other unit is able to provide such value for him. The only one who comes close is Best Girl Venti, who is able to give Neuvillette some solid grouping. So in this instance, no, you can't rely on units like Sucrose, Lynette, or Heizo to name a few options to replace your 5-star Animos. This isn't necessarily a full-on con, since there's a few positives to this. Let me elaborate. Firstly, him not having many teammates is kind of a sucky thing, since it means upon release he doesn't really have a best installed team which can help him make the most out of his kit. There's nobody who directly synergizes with him, and he doesn't have any sort of dedicated support releasing alongside him. Plus, he isn't going to be a direct upgrade to any currently existing team that he can potentially slot into when he comes out. It'll be a bit of an awkward position. But there is something important to mention. Neuvillette's base power level is already really high. So the fact that he's going to be a highly competent unit, completely replace Ayato as a 5-star Hydro DPS option, and will have multiple flexible teams where he's going to be able to operate fine means one thing. When he does eventually get some supports, he's going to be busted, a properly broken unit. Depending on the quality of supports he gets later down the line, he can range from either being a relatively powerful DPS to being one of the best pulls you can make. It genuinely just depends on the future and who synergizes best with his kit. So yes, as of now, you're sort of pushed to play him in awkward setups where his kit might not slot in perfectly, but give it some time, and the puzzle will all come together wonderfully with this dude. Now, this final one is kind of a nitpick, but from what we've seen, he's probably going to suffer from long rotations. This is why Fischl's going to be solid with him, since he's definitely going to need that particle gen. Long rotations are going to give him some energy issues, and his burst looks really cool, so that's not very nice. Units with long rotations also tend to demand supports which have very long uptimes. Look at Sino, for example. The guy's field time is so long that his viable teammates are extremely restrictive. There's almost nobody who can comfortably keep up with him. He even has some gameplay issues with Nahida, where after he clears out the current enemy wave, you have to swap back off to Nahida to apply dendro marks on the new ones. There's literally no winning with that guy. I mean, Baizhu can keep up with him, but Baiju's hideous, so that's pretty unfortunate. Of course, Neuvillette's not going to have issues anywhere near as bad as Sino. That's a pretty extreme example, but I wanted to outline why long rotations are a problem in the first place. This could be remedied with him getting a proper future team which accommodates to his rotations more specifically, but as of now you can expect there to be a bit of awkwardness with that. But it's no deal breaker in my opinion, just something worth mentioning. Neuvillette looks to be a powerful direct upgrade to Ayato and will certainly solidify himself within the Genshin meta for quite some time to come. His journey's only beginning as we're yet to see him acquire any solid supports which properly tailors itself to his kit, and the Hydro Archon is just around the corner, so who knows what synergies those two will have. I'd say that if you're willing to put the investment into him and have enough willpower to be patient, he'll be worth the pull for you. Well then, this has been Juice, signing out, and I wish you all a positive verdict on your Neuvillette pulls.